Now then, Marley. There's been a report issued recently by a fella at the UCL, I think. Anyway, it claims that Eastern European immigration into the UK has boosted the UK's economy by £20 billion. Now, just for background, the person who compiled the report is the same person who confidently predicted back in the day that Eastern European immigration would be a trickle, I think is what he said. Now, he can't have it both ways, surely. If it was a trickle, then it was a hell of a trickle if it was able to contribute £20 billion to the economy. If it was a trickle as we would accept, i.e. a small number, then each one of that small number must have contributed millions of pounds to the economy, which seems unlikely given how many of them are working in unskilled jobs, you would say. Also, there's a little bit of a question mark over the veracity of the report, because it was funded by the EU. The research was funded by the European Union. Now, I do a lot of stand-up comedy work for big companies, corporates we call them in the industry, and rule one of the corporate is don't piss the client off. You can do a bit of tongue-in-cheek stuff, have a few little jokes at the expense of people on the board. That's sort of expected of you, but don't dedicate your entire set to dissing the company that's paying you, or else you don't get the gig again. It's as simple as that. That's just common sense. So the BBC, obviously, because they're also to an extent EU funded, and Sky, for whatever reason, I don't really know what their motivation is, and most of the newspapers have been delighted to propagate this report. It was pretty much the only story on both of those, Sky and the BBC News channel, for most of yesterday or the day before and part of yesterday. And still going on this morning, I noticed, because, well, effectively what they're trying to do is shoot UKIP's fox. I don't think there's any doubt about that. It doesn't... let's just say that the figures are correct. Let's say that unlimited immigration into the UK from Europe has boosted the economy by, or has contributed £20 billion to the economy. I'm not personally buying that, but let's suspend disbelief for a moment. If it has, it doesn't take into account the £55 million a day that we pay for the privilege of putting a lot of our unskilled indigenous workers on the scrap heap by giving their jobs to people who will do them for less money. That's another thing that you would just think was common sense. You ought to factor those numbers in when you're arriving at the big £20 billion ka-ching, off you go back into the cupboard UKIP number. And it also doesn't take into account the fact that non-EU immigration, it's even the people who are bandying about the £20 billion boost, are not claiming that non-EU immigration and illegal immigration and all of those things have in any way contributed. They've been a massive detriment. Nobody is foolish enough to suggest that that's been anything other than a massive detriment to the economic stability of the UK and the cultural. There are cultural issues there as well, but that's for another day. Nobody's claiming that overall immigration has been a good thing, and given that most of the non-EU immigration is to some extent aided and abetted by our EU membership, by which I mean, does anybody seriously think that the French are putting up a massive struggle to repatriate the people who are gathering like vultures waiting to pounce on our benefit system just the other side of the channel, 20 odd miles away from Kent? It's far easier for them. They're not interested in those people going back, those unfortunate people, but their misfortune is not of my making. they're not particularly interested in them going back to their places of origin where they can establish the places of origin. There's a lot of undocumented people there. They just want them not to be in France, and the quickest and easiest way of those people not being in France is for them to be in the United Kingdom. Again, that's common sense, to an extent, given the projected circulation of this little video clip. I will be preaching to the choir here, but perhaps, if anybody who disagrees with it would like to get on the comment section and explain to me where any of what I've said is wrong, I look forward to hearing that. Okay, Marley, let's go. Vote UKIP.